I want to start with two images. The first image, April 1994. The streets of Kigali, Rwanda. Bodies, roadblocks, smoke. A city in which approximately 1 in every 8 people would be killed in the next 3 months. The second image, 2025. Kigali from the air. Clean paved roads cutting through green hills. Modern glass buildings. Organized districts. A city ranked #1 on the African Smart City Index. A city called the cleanest on the planet by the United Nations Environment Program. Here is that second image right now. That is the same city, 30 years apart. What happened between those two images is one of the most extraordinary stories in the modern history of any country on Earth. And it is a story that African audiences need to understand completely. Not just the achievement, but how it was done, who did it, what it cost, and what it cannot yet honestly claim. Let me take you through all of it. First, the starting point. Because you cannot understand what Rwanda built without understanding what Rwanda was working with when it started. Here is what the 30th anniversary coverage looked like in 2024.
I think Rwanda teaches us that to move forward, you do have to face the past. So I think first and foremost, facing the past, facing our history, I think every person in every country can learn from Rwanda in that sense. I think the importance of narratives is something we can learn from Rwanda. And again, if you think about what happened to most Rwandans in 1994.
In 100 days, between April 6th and July 15th, 1994, between 800,000 and 1 million Tutsi and moderate Hutu were killed. Not killed in a war, killed in a genocide. Organized, deliberate, neighbor killing neighbor, teachers killing students, doctors killing patients. The killing happened everywhere at once because the plan had been laid out in advance. By the time it ended, stopped by Paul Kagame's Rwandan Patriotic Front advancing from the north, the country had no functioning government, no justice system. The civil service had been decimated. 70% of the state's administrative capacity had been killed or had fled. 2 million people had crossed the borders into neighboring countries. GDP had collapsed. The infrastructure of the country, roads, hospitals, schools, communications, was in ruins. Rwanda in July 1994 was not a developing country. It was a country that had, in 3 months, been almost entirely destroyed. That is the starting point. Not a poor country that needed to grow. A country that needed to be rebuilt from the ground up while simultaneously rebuilding the relationships between its own people. Now let me tell you the decision that changed everything. In 2000, Paul Kagame became president of Rwanda. He had been the military commander who stopped the genocide. He had been vice president and effective head of government since 1994. In 2000, he became president officially. He announced a strategy called Vision 2020. The goal? Transform Rwanda from a subsistence agriculture economy into a middle-income, knowledge-based economy by the year 2020. Rwanda has no oil, no gas, no significant mineral deposits, no coastline, no access to sea trade routes. It is a landlocked, mountainous, small country with almost no natural resources. Kagame's argument, that is the constraint. Work with what you have. What Rwanda had, 12 million people, one of the highest population densities in Africa, hills covered in volcanic soil, mountain gorillas in the Virunga Range, and a population that had survived a genocide and needed something to build. His explicit model, Singapore. Singapore in 1965 was smaller than Rwanda, had fewer natural resources, was surrounded by hostile neighbors, and had just been expelled from Malaysia. Lee Kuan Yew built it into one of the wealthiest nations on Earth in 40 years through governance, technology, trade, and an uncompromising emphasis on efficiency. Kagame's ambition was to do the same thing on African soil, and he has said this publicly for 25 years. The Singapore of Africa. Singapore's GDP per capita today is over $85,000. Rwanda's is just over $1,000. The gap is enormous, but the direction has been consistent. and the approach has been the same. No oil, no shortcuts, build institutions, attract investment, create a reputation for reliability that foreign capital responds to. That model has produced a city that visitors from across Africa describe as unlike anything they have seen on the continent. Here is what Kigali looks like at street level today. Take a look at this footage.
ना एक कैच है, ये बसेज भी तब चलेंगी जब सवारियाँ पूरी बैठ जाएगी। ऐसे टाइम फिक्स नहीं है कि भी 4 बजे बस चलेगी, 3 बजे चलेगी, 5 बजे। जब सवारी भरेगी तब ये बस चलेगी। कुछ और बसेज भी खड़ी हुई है। याहू आज के दिन भी याहू कौन यूज़ करता है भाई? अब अपने को यहाँ से लेना है कोई पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट जाने के लिए। ऑप्शंस अपने पास कई सारे, पर बेस्ट ऑप्शन ये है कि ये जो बाइक जाने लग रहा है, इस तरह का कोई बाइक ले लो।
What you just saw is not a tourist district. That is the everyday city. The thing that strikes every visitor to Kigali, from Lagos, from Nairobi, from London, from anywhere, is the cleanliness. Not tidy for an African city, clean. Clean. In 2018, Eric Solheim, then executive director of the United Nations Environment Program, called Kigali the cleanest city on the planet. The cleanest city on the planet. He was not speaking comparatively about Africa. He was speaking globally. Two policies produced this. First, in 2008, Rwanda became one of the first countries in the world to ban non-biodegradable plastic bags and single-use plastics. You cannot bring a plastic bag into Rwanda. At the airport, they will take it from you. On the street, carrying one is illegal. Second, Umuganda. Every last Saturday of every month, Rwandans come out of their homes and their offices and clean their neighborhood. Not volunteers, not an option. Every adult Rwandan citizen participates in community work for at least 3 hours. Roads are swept, drains are cleared, public spaces are maintained, trees are planted. And then there are smart street cleaning trucks, introduced in 2025, that handle the remaining maintenance without raising dust or replacing the human workers who know their neighborhoods. The result of these two policies, applied consistently for 17 years, the cleanest capital city in Africa by almost any measure. Watch what that looks like in practice. There is no litter, no plastic bags caught in trees, no open drains running with refuse. The streets are clean because the population treats them as their own property, which Umuganda ensures they literally do. Let's pause for a second to say a big thank you to the Black Culture Diary community, where Black voices, stories, and legacies are preserved and amplified. By becoming a member, you're not just supporting the channel, you're becoming part of a powerful cultural movement. Let's continue. Now the technology story. Because Kigali is not just clean, it is smart. 4G coverage reaches 95% of Rwanda's territory. Not 95% of Kigali, 95% of the entire country. Buses run on a cashless payment system. Public transportation has Wi-Fi. And in 2016, Rwanda became the first country in the world to operate a commercial drone delivery network at national scale. The service is called Zipline. Here is what it looks like. Zipline drones deliver blood, vaccines, and medicine to hospitals across Rwanda, not in an emergency, every day. A hospital in a rural area orders what it needs through a phone app. A Zipline drone launches within minutes, flies to the hospital, and drops the package by parachute into the facility's grounds. In 2026, Kigali is set to become Africa's first city with urban drone delivery, Zipline expanding into the capital itself. Rwanda piloted this when nobody else was doing it. The technology is now operating in 9 countries. It started here, in a country most people thought was still recovering from 1994. The Kigali Innovation City project, launched in 2018, is building a regional technology hub on the edge of the capital. Technology parks, digital innovation centers, designed to attract the East African tech ecosystem in the way Silicon Valley attracted the American one. All public transport buses in Kigali are to be fully electric by the end of 2026. Diesel buses have already been banned from entering the city. Digital national identification is being rolled out from June 2026. 300,000 people had already registered by November 2025. Now the numbers. Because what Kigali looks like is one thing. What Rwanda has achieved economically is where the argument either holds or falls apart. Rwanda's GDP grew 9.4% in 2025. That followed an average of 8.5% growth between 2022 and 2024. Rwanda is consistently among the 5 fastest-growing economies in sub-Saharan Africa. Poverty declined from 38.2% in 2016 to 2017 to 27.4% in 2024. Extreme poverty fell to 5.4% in 2024. Life expectancy in Rwanda in 1994 was estimated below 30 years. The genocide and the years preceding it had collapsed it entirely. Today, it is over 70. Rwanda's community health insurance scheme, Mutuelle de Santé, covers over 90% of the population. For a country that had no functioning healthcare system in 1994, this is a structural achievement that most African countries have not matched. Kigali was ranked #1 in the entire African Smart City Index in 2023, ahead of Tunis, Nairobi, Cape Town, and Accra. Kigali accounts for 41% of Rwanda's entire national GDP. That is how completely the capital has become the engine of the economy. The World Bank approved $100 million in June 2025 specifically for Kigali's public transport transformation. Dedicated bus lanes, the Nyabugogo multimodal hub that one official described as airport-like, expanded cycling and walking infrastructure. Here is a reminder to please like and share the video, and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. Now the honest section. Because BCD does not tell you half the story. Rwanda's achievement is real. The transformation of Kigali from a city of ruins in 1994 to the most modern capital in East Africa in 2025 is not a marketing claim. It is documented by the World Bank, the African Development Bank, the United Nations, and by the evidence of millions of visitors' own eyes. But the full picture requires the other half. Paul Kagame won the July 2024 presidential election with 99.18% of the vote. That is not a competitive election. In Rwanda, there is very little alternative political space. Opposition parties exist on paper. In practice, legal, administrative, and political structures have been used to limit political expression. Journalists have been imprisoned. Critics of the government have died in suspicious circumstances outside Rwanda's borders. Rwanda's BTI governance assessment, from the Bertelsmann Transformation Index, a nonpartisan international research organization, describes a situation in which the same structures that delivered development have also been used to close down political freedom. Then there is the DRC. Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo is Rwanda's western neighbor. It holds enormous deposits of coltan, cobalt, and gold. For years, the United Nations group of experts and multiple independent researchers have documented Rwanda's support for the M23 rebel group operating in eastern DRC. M23 has been accused of war crimes. The UN has accused Rwanda of providing weapons, logistical support, and troops to M23. Rwanda has denied direct involvement. The eastern DRC crisis has displaced hundreds of thousands of people and destabilized one of Africa's most resource-rich regions. The minerals that flow out of M23-controlled territory have been traced to international markets through Rwanda. This is the most serious international controversy currently surrounding Rwanda's government, and the honest domestic picture also contains this. Despite strong GDP growth, the World Bank Human Capital Index places Rwanda at 161st out of 174 countries. 63% of Kigali's residential settlements are still informal or unplanned. Most of the 217,000 jobs created per year are informal, low-paid, and without social security. Rwanda's public debt is rising towards 77% of GDP. The economy remains heavily dependent on foreign aid and public investment. None of this cancels the achievement. Rwanda has done something that no country emerging from genocide has done at this speed. The plastic ban works. Umuganda works. The healthcare system works. The drone delivery network works. The numbers on poverty are moving in the right direction. But the model that produced these results is inseparable from the governance model that produced these results. Kigali is clean partly because Umuganda is compulsory. The ICT infrastructure was built partly because the government could direct resources without political opposition slowing the process. The decision to ban plastic bags in 2008 was implemented because there was no organized lobby capable of stopping it. The question other African countries are asking when they study Rwanda is, can you get the development outcomes without the governance model that delivered them? Rwanda does not have an answer for that. Nobody does. What is coming next in Rwanda is substantial. The Bugesera International Airport, 15 kilometers east of Kigali, is under active construction and will be larger than the current Kigali International Airport when it opens. It is designed to triple Rwanda's international air capacity and position Kigali as the aviation hub of East Africa. The Nyabugogo bus terminal transformation, $100 million to turn Rwanda's largest bus hub into an airport-like multimodal transit center. Trains, buses, regional connections, all integrated in one facility. Radionuclide production. From the first quarter of 2026, Rwanda becomes a producer of radionuclides, key chemicals for nuclear medicine. A landlocked country with no historical science and technology sector is entering nuclear medicine production. Rwanda has retained its position as the most visa-open country in Africa for the second year running. Most African passport holders can enter Rwanda without a visa application. The country that most of the world wrote off in 1994 is now the most accessible African destination for African travelers. Let me close with the question that sits at the center of this whole story. In 1994, Rwanda was a country where neighbors killed neighbors, where church pastors handed over their congregations to be slaughtered, where doctors at hospitals killed their own patients because of the ethnic group they belonged to. The deepest thing Kagame's Rwanda had to build was not a road or a hospital or a fiber cable network. It was a reason for people to trust each other again. In the weeks after the genocide ended, there were Rwandans who had killed members of the same family they were now expected to live next to. The conventional justice response could handle only a fraction of the 1.9 million cases that needed resolution. No international tribunal in history has processed that many cases. So Rwanda built its own system. The Gakaka courts, community-based justice tribunals that processed 1.9 million genocide-related cases between 2005 and 2012, were designed to do exactly that. Not to punish from a distance, to bring perpetrators and survivors into the same room, to hear the truth, to name what happened, to allow communities to determine what justice looked like for themselves. It was imperfect. There were cases of false accusations. There were cases of communities too damaged to process fairly. There were perpetrators who escaped accountability. But 1.9 million cases processed in communities by the people who had survived. And then Umuganda. Every last Saturday, the same people who had been on opposite sides of 1994 sweeping the same street together. That is not development economics. That is something harder. And in 2025, 31 years after one of the worst 100 days in the history of any country on Earth, Kigali is the #1 smart city in Africa. The most modern city on the continent was built not just with money and planning. It was built on top of something that should have made it impossible. Let us know in the comments section. Do you think Rwanda's development model can be replicated elsewhere in Africa? And is the governance question, the 99% elections, the DRC, the press freedom, something that can be separated from the development achievement? Or is it all one thing? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.